It's not just the leads that they should be constantly looking for either. It should be team members. So they should have two pipelines. They should definitely have a business development pipeline, but they should also have a recruitment pipeline. Some of the signs that we see on a regular basis is obviously that the owner is stuck in the day-to-day, right? So they're no longer doing what they're an expert in. Shift that mindset into a growth mindset. And then you can actually start to see all the different solutions because your mind is now open.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs and business owners, watching and listening today?
Don't wait to get help.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athan Casiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. Her name is Kerrie Mcgilvray. She is the founder of the Admin Superheroes and a fractional operations manager on a mission to help business owners reclaim their time and scale with ease. With a knack for streamlining systems and a playful, superhero-inspired approach, she turns chaos into clarity for her clients. And when she's not optimizing businesses, you'll find her dancing, lifting weights, or plotting her next big adventure. Welcome, Kerrie, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm sure it's going to be an awesome show for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So if you just want to, introduce yourself by telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Sure. So, my journey, like most entrepreneurs, never take the straight standard route. So, I left school, I started a trade. It kind of led me down into the automotive and plumbing industry. And when I ventured into that plumbing industry, I ended up becoming the fixer. So instead of fixing cars, I started to fix businesses. So it kind of gave me all that skill set that I needed to diagnose and implement, streamline, and make things more efficient and solve problems at the root cause, not just at a surface level. So that then led me through into operations. I became business improvement specialists and ops managers, and I've just loved it ever since.
Yeah, awesome. Great journey there. And how you're loving that. I think we've got similar backgrounds, where I was growing up as well as getting into those deep systems and, really important for people because, it's not just about selling, right? You got to have the operations working well in a business so that you've got a successful business as well. So definitely very, very important part of it. And you are, having, I guess, fractional operations manager. So for those people, just don't know what this is, just for that, do you want to maybe just say how this differs, from other ways of having operations manager or, other things like that?
Yeah, so a standard operations manager you usually get for full-time hours. So a fractional operations manager is kind of a fraction of that hours. So you might bring us in for 10 hours a week because your business isn't big enough to have someone full-time yet. And that's the beauty. You get that access to the skills and the expertise so that you can still scale and grow your business without, trying to do everything on your own.
Yeah. And definitely, I think with business owners, there's always like, no one can do it as good as me, or they're always trying to do it. But it's like, you've got to let go sometimes, right? And get other
Yeah.
people in there too. And do you want to maybe talk about, because I think from my side of things, what I see is like, when do you bring this person in, right? Because it's like, what are some of the signs of going, like, when do I take that leap and go, hey, I need to bring this, fractional operations manager in that's going to benefit, my business.
Yeah, so some of the signs that we see on a regular basis is obviously that the owner is stuck in the day-to-day, right? So they're no longer doing what they're an expert in. They're not doing that. They may not even be doing any billable work anymore because they're too busy making sure everything's running in the background. They might be managing a small team. They're usually, by the time that they get to us, they are very, very fried and overwhelmed because they mentally can't make decisions. They've got decision fatigue like nothing else, and they just are so stuck in it they can't see a way out. And for us, that's where we really step in and shine because we just go, you know what? Don't worry about it. We will take all that off your plate. You go and work out what you want to do to scale your business. We will help you with strategies and implementation to make sure that that happens so that your dreams for that business can actually come true. And the other part that we really specialize in is managing the team for them. So becoming their gatekeeper, because they grow a business, and sometimes those processes that they start at the beginning, if they're there at all, right? They don't grow with them because they've written them once, they've never looked at them since because they're too busy. Everyone comes to them asking questions, and they don't realize that that's because the process isn't clear. So we go through and make sure that those are all optimized so we can reduce the questions that you're getting from the team. We also make sure that the team aren't bothering you with every minute question that you really don't need to answer, that we can answer on your behalf. So we just become that gatekeeper to get their time back and protect it.
Yeah, I love it. So true. I know. I remember I've been in businesses or, even in certain roles and you keep getting asked questions and you're wondering why things are never getting done. So I love that gatekeeper side of so they can focus on the important things in the business and setting up the processes, right? The SOPs is so important too, and making sure they're updated. So there's a couple of key things. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit more just about the tasks or something like that? Like what type of things would actually, apart from managing the team and maybe setting up the processes, are there certain areas or tasks of the operations that sort of they can go in so that I guess the owners can go, oh yeah, that's the sort of where I can delegate or not have to worry about that, as well.
Yeah, so there isn't much that we can't do. We won't get on a sales call. That's pretty much the line that we draw. Anything that's strategic or plan wise, so we can help them plan out their marketing strategy. We can make sure that the team implements it. We can help them when it comes to making sure that they're focused on billable stuff or, the growth of the business. So anything that gets in that way, we can take away. Literally anything. We can look at finance. Quite often a lot of business owners have no idea what their financial position is. They don't have good practices around their finances either. So we can teach them what works best for that size business at that level and how to kind of manage their money so that, they don't get to a tax bill and go, oh my God, I have no money, right? So we do all this different kind of reporting. We can give them visibility on the statistics on how the team's going. So it gives them so many different things and includes streamline and look at their tech stack. Like how many people have actually looked at their tech stack since they've started? Everyone's just paying subscriptions left, right, and center and like, oh, wait, maybe if we just get this one upgraded software, we'd have lower subscription costs and everything would be in one place and we wouldn't have to go all over the place. It wouldn't be so chaotic. So there's all those different things that we can evaluate and we will bring the problem that they're having. We'll come with 3 different solutions if there is them and a recommendation. So all they've got to do is go, yep, okay, that one.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I love that breaking down, and I'm big on systems as well. And it's funny, I looked at, through your LinkedIn and I just looked at your background like a while ago, and I noticed what was very similar is that you had a time where you were a pricing analyst and you were an SAP master data specialist. And when I had my original role, I was doing something, I was an analyst and I was the super user, with SAP and stuff like that, right? So I can see a lot of similarities. And when you have a big beast of a system like SAP or SAP, it's like this thing. So once you understand a system like that, it's like you can basically understand any system, right? From there. So it's very powerful skill. And I love that you're giving options and going, hey, what do we look at this? Because a lot of people don't think about that, and it could really streamline as well, what you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely. Funny story about the SAP Master Data Specialist. So I was the only person outside of IT who actually had that access. So it was an access that could completely break the system. And they actually trusted me enough because I understood the system and what impact it had if I changed certain things. So I knew what it would break specifically if I did anything. So it was quite funny that it was always a big joke that I had that access outside of IT and I'm not in IT. And, it was quite funny.
Yeah, definitely love it. And this is that, subject matter expert, right? So any role in a business, but ideally, especially with a system, I'm sure you do this. If you implement something, you want someone to be that subject matter expert, right? So that especially not the owner, like ideally they know a decent amount, but then that way, if there's any things that's going on, you've got someone in the team that's upskilled enough to be able to support and do things in the systems as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
all that background and just understanding all those different systems, it's always put me in kind of the unofficial IT person in the business because, everyone will come to me regardless of whatever system it is, and I'll just work it out. Like I just know how to just work it out and troubleshoot and solve it. So I've always been that person, and it doesn't matter whether I'm, teaching a 65-year-old how to use his Teams on his phone while I'm staring at the ceiling and the fans going, because that's how we're doing the video call, right? Or, someone who's just come out of uni who kind of has a much better understanding of tech. I still just problem solve everything. I just can't help it.
It awesome. You've got your superpowers, right? And understanding how to do that and from a superhero perspective as well with what you're doing with your business, which I love as well. I'll just quickly share, you told a little funny story as well. With me, growing up, my parents took me to a place at 6 years old called Future Kids to learn, computers at like Windows
Yep.
3.1 back in the day and everything like that. So I was grateful, it's a bit like the kids of today, right? As they get onto things earlier, they're obviously very switched on systems. And at my previous company, when we implemented SAP, so we had a previous system, we changed over, and I was the super user for the state there. And there was all these problems, right? And everyone would be like, Athan, and I was the person that they would come to. And it's like, Athan, I've tried it 5 times. It's not working. And I'm like, all right, let me come to your desk. I would stand behind them and it would work every time. Right. And it was funny, right? And just recently I had a client that came in and he was telling me like he had his laptop, he had this charger, and it wasn't turning on. So I checked the PowerPoint, like with my charger, like in this room, we're in person. And mine was working. So I go, well, it's not the PowerPoint, right? And I told him the story, and he goes, well, come up, stand behind me. I stood behind him, and his laptop turned on, right? And he was like, no way. And I'm like, I don't know why. Okay, I'm very good with tech. My beliefs around tech are good, right? Because I think from my side, I think there's an energy perspective. If people think they're not good at tech or systems or processes, then that affects the business, right? From a mindset perspective. Are you seeing things like that as well, where you have to change the way people think in a business too?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like, it's really hard for owners to get into the mindset of actually letting that stuff go because, like you said before, no one's going to do it better than us. So, and it's our baby. So they're the kind of mindset that they're in, but they still want to grow. So you kind of got to talk them through that process and be gentle sometimes and allow them the space and energy to just for their nervous system to settle so that they can then release things and trust that their team's actually going to deliver because that's a lot of the issue, right? They've been burnt in the past. Some of their team members weren't so good that they hired because they weren't recruiters. They don't know how to recruit. They just picked someone that they thought was good. So there's all these different things that they go through. By the time they get to us, they're already traumatized. So we have to work with them and their mindset around letting things go in order to scale because that is truly the only way to do it. It really is. And you have to then shift that mindset into a growth mindset. And then you can actually start to see all the different solutions because your mind is now open. Instead of when you're stuck in the weeds, you can't see the solutions because you're so stuck in the thick of it that all you can see are the problems.
Yeah, love that. Completely agree. It's like, coaching and mentoring with what I do, right? It's that outside perspective, whether it's a fractional operation manager, someone coming from outside the business like you, coach mentors, things like that. There's huge amounts of value, right? In someone outside, because otherwise you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And what is it? Insanity, right? If you think there's going to be a
That's
different
it.
result.
Yep, that's it.
I love it. So do you want to talk maybe about because I think you talked about hiring a bit there, right? Recruiting, they don't know what they're doing. What does it look like from a onboarding perspective, right? Because that's always important, like how you start any person, right? But how you guys, I guess, come into a business, operations manager to make it, I guess, as smooth, as possible, as well
Yep.
for everyone. Yeah.
We will also help them recruit if they ever need to recruit because we've done it, plenty of times. But from the onboarding side, you obviously want that to be as seamless as possible. So you really do, if you don't have that process, and that's one of the processes that are always missing, is that onboarding because they don't do it so often. So they just go, oh, I'll just make it up as I go, right? So nothing's ever the same every time someone comes on. So we definitely map out that process straight up. We make sure that we have all the documents in place that need to go out to the candidate. So once they've gone, yes, we want them on board, we send them their contract, we send them all the different forms that they've got to fill out for whatever it may be for the ATO or whatever it is. And we make sure that we set up an induction plan, we set up meetings with different team members so that they can meet everyone in the team, understand how everyone works together. We make sure that they've got plenty of training and support and that they feel really safe and seen.
Beautiful. I love that. Very, very powerful and smooth transition and everything like that. And yeah, get everyone on board, right? Which is the main thing, working well as a team. Let's talk about systems and processes here, especially, right? Because I think the process side is one of the things that is lacking, right? And I think from what I see, I'd love to know your perspective, is that a lot of people don't really know how to create processes really that well either. It's like, oh, let me put a few little lines on a document and that's a process or something, where it's not really a process, right? In terms of what they're doing. So do you want to share, I guess, best practice ways or something of how to actually, create processes in a business, or the way of thinking right behind it, to make sure that you got a well-oiled machine? Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my favorite platforms actually to use for processes is Confluence. So Confluence is a really handy tool to use. It's got templates in there set up already for processes. So you can say, this is step 1, step 2, who owns that step, so it's very, very clear. You can put in screenshots. I also recommend a video. So like someone doing a loom and talking on the video so that you can hear that too. The other side of that is you need to consider how people actually take in information. So when you write a process, that's why I suggest screenshots and written text together, but also the video, because not everyone, wants to read it. Some people are better watching it and some people are better doing it. So, I mean, you can't really do the doing, but sometimes sitting next to them for the first couple of times that they do that process is really helpful. So always have those different options for them to take that in. The other standard that I kind of like to talk about is that processes are ever evolving and they need to be idiot proof, right? So we can't make the assumption that everybody knows how to use Xero. We need to assume that the person that we're handing this process over to has never used Xero in their life. So if it means, breaking it down to logging in and pressing this button and doing that button and then moving to this screen, and, you need to make it super clear so nothing gets missed. Because some of those processes, you miss 1 or 2 steps and the outcome's completely different. But they have to be improved constantly for efficiency. Businesses grow and change, right?
Yeah, definitely love that. And I think it's that, like you said, the step by step, everything like that is really important, and especially like if someone, the way I say it to my clients is like, what happens if someone goes for a month holiday overseas, or they're sick or something like that? Because that's when the true test of the process happens, right? In that
That's
area.
right. Yep.
And then you're like, oh, this person can't do the role. Well, we probably need to improve that process.
Yeah, that's right. It's obviously missing a few bits.
Yeah. And we don't want to get to that point, right? Especially if it's a critical thing in the business, and you don't have that support, or, someone leaves, you want to make sure that, whoever you're hiring can easily step into that role, right? And everything's,
Right.
yeah.
You need to write it so you can hand it to anybody at no matter what skill level they're at, and they can still go through that process and perform the work.
Yeah, love it. Love the tool, love the process there. And I guess one little thing that I like to say to my clients too is, yeah, just like screen record, like even if you're showing someone and you're just talking through the steps, right? That's the only difference, because you're still you're going to do the job anyway. You're going to do the process. So you just got to talk as you do it, right? And then
Yeah, and there's some really cool tools out there. Actually, I think Scribe was one of them that you can do that. You can screen record and then it will pull out all the screenshots and write the process. So you don't have to be a genius to write processes anymore, but you do have to understand what's written and whether it's missed anything. So you still have to go over it and make sure that you make it efficient, but there's so many tools out there at the moment that can make that a lot easier.
Yeah. And I love the world we're in now with tech, with systems, with AI, all this type of stuff, right? It's really changing the game of how we can do things a lot more efficiently. Um, Before we go into AI, because we could talk about that, for a while, but let's talk about systems here. So I'd love to know from your perspective, because I always have this conversation with people, like what are some of the key, if you talk maybe from a higher level, some of the key systems generally, like, for example, a finance system like Xero or whatever. What are some of the key systems that people need in their business that they may not necessarily be aware, but that are like important, right, to have as part of their general systems? Yeah.
Yeah, so Xero is obviously the most common for finance. And the other thing that I would really stress with that is that whatever other systems that you use, you want to make sure that things integrate. That's so important because you don't want to put an invoice in Xero and then have to go over to your client software and then enter it manually again, right? You want to be able to have that integration that goes both ways. So maybe in your CRM tool or your contract management tool, wherever you're doing all your client data, which could be HubSpot, it could be Moxie, it could be Ivory, any of those kind of things, or Salesforce even. Those are the kind of systems that will integrate with Xero. You can do all your invoicing in there and it just pushes it through. So you don't even have to worry about whether it's gone through. It's just there. You do your reconciliation part in Xero and your BAS and all the different things in there. But it's really important to have specialist tools in particular areas. There's a lot of tools out there that are almost a catch-all, but they can get a little bit pricey for a small business. So it's about that balance of finding the ones that work best for the business.
Yeah, love that. Awesome stuff there. And yeah, I think CRMs are definitely really important, right? To measure that customer journey. And then depending on how every business is a little bit different on what we do. So that's why I sort of kept that at a higher level, because you could you could drill down on every industry
Oh, we
almost
could
and things
talk
like
for days.
the days. That's right. We won't bore people too much, apart from the nerds that like systems today. But maybe another time they can have a chat to you about all that with their business. So um, do you ever get um any resistance or any challenges like coming in like from a business? Because obviously a lot of people don't necessarily like change, or they like to stay comfortable, right? And you talked about that growth mindset before, which is so important. And definitely from the business owner, obviously it's definitely needed. But some of the team members, maybe they've always done things a certain way. They've been there for a while, things like that. And then, someone like yourself or your team are coming in to sort of change the operational side. Is there ever any areas there where there has to be a bit of a change approach and things like that with how team members are working?
There can be a lot of change that happens when we come into the business because, they've been flying by the seat of their pants for so long and making it up as they go that, we kind of come in. But one of the things that we do as soon as we come into a company is we have a meeting with every team member and we ask them directly what's working, what isn't. And we get that data from them. We say, we're not here to change everything. We're here to make things better. And if that requires change, then that's great. And it'll be a benefit to you. But in order to do that, I need your help and support to do that. And usually coming in with that approach, they're really open and honest. And they'll tell you the things that drive them bananas every day. Because, maybe it's a system issue or maybe it's a training issue. Maybe they just don't know how to use that software properly. So they're doing some workaround just to make it work and don't realize that they've just got to do 3 extra steps in the system and the system will do it for them. So we go through all those different things with them. We make sure that they're sitting in the seat that they want to be sitting in, because that's the other part. They get hired for one thing and then all of a sudden they got 10 other things on their plate that wasn't in their job description when they started. And they're like, oh, actually, I really don't like those things. So we go through all that to make sure that sometimes we rejig the team if need be, if that's what's required, because they need to be the right people in the right seats.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree. And I love that, yeah, you've got that element and looking at what they are. Are you doing any like personality tests or things like this with team members to see sort of where they're
Uh,
at as well?
the businesses that we work with, probably not so much. They're not big enough to be doing personality tests. Um, but we do evaluations on the people that are there. So we will check in and see, we can tell. So we're all ex-corporate operations managers, me and my team, and we've dealt with people for a very long time. We know what they're like. We can tell if they're growth mindset or they're fixed. We can tell if they're not the right person for the business, if it was, like a hire that was just off the cuff and probably not the best idea, but it might not be that they're not the best for the business, they're just in the wrong spot. So we work through all those different things because we've done structures and all different kinds of things within corporate. So it's very easy for us to see that without going down the personality test path, because they can get quite expensive for a small business.
Yeah, definitely on how deep they go. And that's right. You can't, use experience, right? When you can analyze people, everything like that with the experience, it's definitely the best way. Because it's an art and a science type of thing as well with people, right? We're not machines, right? We're not robots, yeah.
No, not yet.
Not yet. That's right. I don't know, Elon Musk with his chips in the head or something like that. We'll see at some point. But for now, we're all good in that way. Nice. Now, some people might be thinking, oh yeah, obviously, like, you're getting like a specialist, right? Like you guys are specialists, you're going to come in. Because sometimes when you hire an operations manager, like you said in the past, maybe they weren't that good, they didn't know what they were doing, right? So you're paying maybe a little bit more of a premium, but you're getting a lot higher quality, and you're going to get someone that's really going to implement everything that's needed to be done, right? With you guys in the business.
Yep.
At some ideally, that works long term for a business, but they may grow out potentially, right? Of that, especially if they're growing fast. So what does it look like, with that area there of a business owner going, okay, well, maybe it's time for me to find someone, that's more of a full-time, operations manager from there.
Yeah, we actually get really excited when that happens. So for us, that means we've done our job. So we've supported the business until they need a full timer. And when that is the case, and we usually bring that to them. So when they start hitting about 30 hours with our business, that's when we start to have those conversations. And then we kind of talk to them about it. And if they're on board with it, we will help them recruit our replacement. We have no problem doing that. We will train our replacement, all those different things, because in our eyes, that means we've been a success and we've gotten the business to where we wanted to get them to so that they could do that and grow.
Yeah, amazing. Love that. Love that growth abundance mindset that you have, right? And I'm sure they'll be very thankful, and a lot of good will come back from that as well in the business. And then you continue to train them like you said and everything like that, right? It's not like you're saying bye. It's a great transition so that you're setting them up for success.
Yeah, and then sometimes they'll keep us around on a ad hoc basis for consulting, whatever it may be. But usually that doesn't last that long because, if we've recruited well enough, they really won't need us. That's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Um, I always like to think about, I guess, failures or mistakes or things like that. Like there's a lot of them that you see in business. So what are maybe some of these, failures or mistakes that you've seen people in businesses happen? Because it's always nice to learn from them.
Oh, there's plenty of them, right? Where do you start? One of the biggest one is definitely the finances. So I've come into multiple businesses and they haven't had a good structure set up for managing their money, that they get a tax bill and they really freak out because they don't have the money. So that's one of the biggest failures that I've seen, because then they have to go into the payment plan with the ATO, and that's just painful. The other biggest failure is that they don't recruit well. So, and then they get stuck because they don't know how to offboard either or manage them out. So that's really tough. Another one is that they drop the ball in business development. So they get to a point where they've got all the clients that them and their team can handle, and then they just go, I just can't deal with BD because I've got no one to think about who can take that work. And, so they drop the ball, and then a client may leave for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden they've got these mouths to feed and less clients, and then no leads in their pipeline. So that's one of the other really big parts that I see that comes across. And another one with the finances is obviously around subscriptions. People have subscriptions from 10 years ago because they don't look at them, they just keep paying them. So, they just don't do that analytics side of what's actually going in and out of the business. They're probably the biggest things that I see that are the failures.
Yeah, I love that. So amazing points, right? The money side, the most important, right? To pay people and have a profitable business. Then the people side, you can't do it by yourself, right? Like that. And then, yeah, those other elements as well. So important with, yeah, getting the business like that lead flow. I see that as well. It's like they get all these clients and they go to deliver, and then it's like, oh wait, I should be still doing that. And it's like a seesaw effect when it should be a consistent thing.
But it's not just the leads that they should be constantly looking for either. It should be team members. So they should have two pipelines. They should definitely have a business development pipeline, but they should also have a recruitment pipeline so that you've had conversations with these people in the past, and when you're ready to go, they're ready to come. So, and then it's like that. They're already on board with the mission. They love it. They want to go. And that's one of the things that I've really focused on a lot in the last probably 6 to 12 months is that recruitment pipeline. Because there's no use going out there and finding more clients if you've got no one who can do the work.
Yeah, I love that. So powerful because yeah, it makes sense, right? You're building up all the leads and the sales on this side. You got to be able to deliver on it. So you got to build that up as well, so that you can easily flick that button when needed and preempt things as you're measuring everything, right? Which I'm sure you guys are doing in the business as well. So love that. Really, really powerful stuff. Yeah, you shared yeah, so much gold with us here today, Kerrie. I love it. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up, you know, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs and business owners, you know, watching and listening today?
Yeah, don't wait to get help is the biggest piece of advice. Always reach out sooner rather than later. So if you think if you just got that feeling of overwhelm in your business, you've already waited too long. That's the sign. If you've got that bit of overwhelm and panic about trying to get everything done and you're not working on your business at all, you've waited too long. You need to go and get help. And don't be afraid. There's plenty of good people out there.
Yeah. Love that. So true. Completely agree. And yeah, we connected, you know, through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from, yeah, providing various services, pricing, systems, operations, and management to now being, yeah, the founder of the Admin Superheroes. Amazing woman, so knowledgeable. You shared so much gold with us here today, Kerrie, how to think about businesses and really have a well-oiled machine and have the great, you know, team on board, you know, in the business, as well as like, you know, fractional, you know, external as well to the business, that we're all working together, you know, for the same result for success. And I'm sure you'll, yeah, continue to help, yeah, business owners reclaim their time and scale with these. Very grateful that we connect and look forward to connecting further with you. And so, Kerrie, how can, yeah, people find you and get in contact with you?
Sure. So we're across all the social media channels. Obviously, there's our website, which is the adminsuperheroes.com. And obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn, both personal and business.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, definitely check out Kerrie there. All the social channels, the website definitely, and Kerrie specifically there on LinkedIn as well. All awesome stuff. And yeah, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, Kerrie, today. And thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thanks for having me. I've had a great time.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athan Casiotis, or visit my website, athancasiotis.com. If you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.